My name is Vance Johnson. I farm down in Breckenridge, just south of Fargo here, about 45 miles. Raise corn, soybeans, spring wheat, and sugar beets. So, guess I'm kind of going to touch a little bit on some economics. I guess more of the considerations. I've got a little bit of a plot that I use a lot of my, you know, try to show a lot of my information on, but maybe start out a little bit with a history on me and what I'm doing, and get you caught up to speed as to where my head is at, I guess. So we start with this one here. This is probably actually I started playing with cover crops more so as a green manure type of a system back about 2016. This picture is from 2018. It was a barley crop. I had gone out there with a super coulter afterwards and just worked it in to try and get the barley regrowth going, with the idea I could scrape it, and then I would come back mid-September before soybean harvest, and then I'd chisel plow it down. This was probably my first aha moment as to the cover crop system and the intangible benefits that you get from it. You can see I'm sitting out there. I'm scraping now. This was after about a half-inch rain about a day or so before that. I'm the only one in the area doing any field work at all because everybody else, it was too wet. The barley had pulled up just enough moisture and it was working fabulous. I could surface scrape and I could dump it and move it and didn't have issues. So it was kind of my first, this is something for real. So again, one of those intangibles that you can't put a number on, that's a benefit, time and workload. So kind of just to step back, that previous picture would have been 2018. 2017 was probably my first semi sort of successful shot at trying to fly some cover crops into soybeans. We flew it in roughly the 1st of September. You can kind of see we had combined it here that first week of October. Not a lot of growth, but the header floated a lot better on top of it. We weren't pushing leaves in the morning. Things just worked for us. Left is a close-up on the right side. You can kind of see just that green hue behind the combine there. So, I guess my argument there is you don't have to have a 6-inch tall cover crop to be a benefit. This was a huge benefit to us. You can kind of see on that right picture, if you look just to the right of the grain cart there is a little bit of rutting, so it was wet that fall, but we had no problems carrying the head and pushing along and combining. So benefit there. We were able to keep moving without harvest issues. How do you get started with cover crops? I guess there's a whole pile of ways to do it. Equipment wise, I've used everything. I started using some airplane stuff to get started, throwing it into a standing crop. Last year I used a drone for the first time, hired a drone to come and try and fly some stuff on, just to try and make some comparisons. I guess cost-wise, it was, I don't know, maybe $1 or $2 more expensive to use the drone. So really almost a non-issue, because I think with the drone, you're able to stay inside the field boundaries better, and you can actually get, I'm going to say, some boundary coverage better than versus what an airplane is going to do. But airplane is going to get a lot more acres done a lot faster, and that sort there. I guess the drone that I was using it with lower rate stuff. I mean, I think we were putting like 23 pounds to the acre on a cover mix. So had we gone more than that, it probably would have been significantly more expensive. So, but there's options out there. This is a good way to get started without a whole lot of input to it. Other things I've done, our local soil water conservation district had an interseeder for a few years, just to try and get guys to using it and excited with it. I tried it in some sugar beets with some marginal success, I guess. I think a lot of that had to do with timing. I don't think I ever went early enough. Most of the time I was hitting about the 1st of September through the 15th of September trying to put it into sugar beets. I think it really needed to be done earlier in August, but part of that came with, it wasn't my piece of equipment. I had to get it from somebody else, and then I'd have to calibrate. I mean, it was just it was a good way to try it and play it and try to learn from it. So you can see on the left there, that's probably the most successful year I had with it, but it was also a very the beets were good, but we had a very open canopy, so we caught a cover, and it actually survived harvest. So um, gave some encouragement that it might be a true option. And this is just a picture of actually my current setup. I was going into it was previous year's sugar beets. We were trying to put some rye down to get a cover going. So nothing has to be expensive to do it. It's just a piece of equipment I've already got, bought an air box and put on it. And I think I figured within about a year and a half with what that air box cost me versus application fees, I had it paid for. So, it can be really simple to get started in some of this stuff. And if you're looking at after a wheat crop or something, I mean, you've got an air seeder or a drill, you easily use that stuff. You've already got the equipment to do it, so it's not a difficult entry point. This is where a lot of my economic information comes from. Let's see, it'd be 6 years ago now, I started a cooperation with our local soil water conservation district in Wilkin County. It's about a 55-acre field. We split up into 3 different tillage practices. We've got a conventional tillage, strip tillage, and that strip till is now a vertical till system, more similar to mine. And then strict no-till on the very top. And then we split each system with covers and without covers. This is not research, so there's a lot of variability to it, but it's a good way to get it out there and get people to see it, and just as a demonstration. So we've got a lot of, you can see the cooperators around the outside edge of it there. Everybody that's working with us. I'm taking care of all the inputs and tracking the expenses and the yields and everything, all the farmer want to know stuff. But we've got, I'm trying to think, your Minnesota Department of Ag, Minnesota NRCS, all working with us. We are taking soil tests and tracking soil changes over time. We've got some moisture sensors out there, just tracking moisture between the different treatments throughout the year, as well as temperatures through the treatments throughout the year. Just, for argument's sake, everybody says, no-till isn't going to warm up as fast as conventional till or vice versa. Well, we can maybe start to prove or disprove how great those differences truly are in this as we watch it. So it's been a pretty fun ride. We initially started as a 5-year commitment. This last year was year number 5, and we've turned it over and decided we're going to try to keep going another 5 years if we can, because I think we're at that precipice of maybe seeing some major changes on things. So, and the idea with this, so we've got the different treatments. That's all the same crop on any given year. So it's not like we're cropping any of it any different. It's all in the same rotation. So this is just a drone view to show you what it looks like on setup year. It was a wheat crop, and then of course you got all the volunteer wheat coming in, but you can see the conventional, the strip till, we're actually stripping out there, and then the no-till on the north side there, the left side. And just for fun, I guess the reason that site got picked was it's mostly all one soil type, so at least we can take a little bit of variability out of it. And then the other factor is those trees right on the top side there, that's my farmyard. So we're within a mile away, with the idea that if we need to come back and plant this thing 3 different times, we can. It's not a huge hindrance. It's right there by the yard. So, but as things have proven out through the year, I've been able to plant the entire plot in one day across all systems, just the way it's worked out. So so yeah, as I was putting this together, trying to think that this is, coming out of the Dickinson Research Station. I'm in the valley. We've really got a lot of different, there's differences there. And how do I try to speak to it? I mean, just trying to show that I use the NDON site and tried to take some averages to get an idea where we are. So, roughly here in the valley, we're just about 4 inches more moisture in the growing season versus what you folks in the western part of the state are dealing with. So realizing that there are some challenges and some differences, but I think the general story can still be taken across. So Here's kind of the big one when it comes to, like I say, the economics with it. You can kind of see as we go through each year what crop I had across each treatment. And then I've ranked them. I basically put the net returns on them, or the net return on it, and then ranked them. And you can kind of see as the covers and no covers go across how things shook out. And I guess it's really kind of just looks like a grab bag when you look at it. As I see it, the first year was our setup year, so we were coming fresh out of a conventional system. But you can still kind of see how things played out, and looks like, for the most part, I would say the covers system beat the no cover system. And I mean, you can kind of, that argument holds till you look at the no-till, but the argument I have on that no-till is we had that Mother's Day freeze, and our no-till with covers, we actually froze corn and lost stand on it. A lot of it, I think, has to do, we didn't have that radiant heat coming off, black dirt, like in the strip till or the conventional till. So that freeze actually did some damage because we didn't have that buffer there. So, which for us is a real thing. So, but it explains out kind of where things happen there. And the first 2 years were really dry years for us. So I can maybe, relate it back a little bit. You can see where the conservation efforts actually retained some moisture as the season went. So, which kind of lent their benefit. Trying to think here as we go. Year number 2 was another real dry year. We were full sugar beets on it. That one there, in the case of strip till, that's probably more my fault that it didn't show up as it did, because, as I say, the whole thing got planted in one time. Realistically, looking back at it, the strip till should have been planted separately because it was wetter and I was having some issues with the planter carrying. But I'm a good German. We're going to get through it. We're going to do this thing. It showed its ugly head at the end. So as much as we try to hold true to it, I'm still a farmer at heart and things happen. So, but as you go through, you can kind of see, because of our cooperation with Agassiz Seed on our covers, we've gotten more aggressive as we go through the season and put more of a mix out there, and a little more expensive mix, which has been kind of nice. We know where we can't go. Basically, you get to year number 4 there in our soybeans, we got up to about a $42 an acre treatment. That's too expensive as far as that goes. In my head, at least for sure in the valley here, anything under $25 I think is a good number. So, and $20, if you can do it for 20 or less, is a number on a cover crop that you're going to get a return on it. I'd say at least 7 out of 10 years on it, it seems to be. So, and that's coming from this and across my farm as a whole, I would have to say. So, some of the things that are benefits to the cover crops that we're seeing, we kind of noticed in the first year there, it was a real dry year. We were getting some yield out of it. For whatever reason, the covers were holding some moisture for us if we were able to keep some more organic matter between the rows or whatever. Trying to think here, year number 2, actually in our covers and our minimum till, we it earned its keep, I should say, in lack of having to spray. Where we had more residue in the strip till or the no-till, or where the covers were, I didn't have to make a water hemp application in the sugar beets. Where I didn't have the covers or in the straight out conventional, I had to spray for water hemp, at least a second application on it. So, it's some of those things there that it might not be a direct yield, but the covers are doing some things for us that we can take advantage of. So, and just to give you an idea what kind of ground we're dealing with, down in the bottom left corner there, I've got it. I mean, we're working on some heavy Fargo Doran clays. So, we're 30 CECs, 7.5, just about 8 pH, and we got good organic matter. We're at 4.5% or so. So, but when the stuff gets dry, it gets good and hard, and when it gets wet, it's yuck. So, but we're able to make it work. And like I say, over time, I think we're able to show some things. Again, it's demonstration, so it's not replicated, but so that's probably my biggest takeaway on that one as we go through things. But then again, I'm across the farm. Like I say, I run about 75% of the farm is under covers at any given time. So we're running 16 to 1,800 acres of cover crops. So we've seen a lot of things, and I'm fully sold on it. It's just trying to figure out how to get them implemented. So, and here just was kind of a breakdown as far as maybe if you want to know what kind of covers we were using to get to those price points that we had. We try to keep a good diverse mix out there just to try and see what's going to catch and what's going to work in our area. A lot of these covers are flown on in crop. So we're trying to get them established so that when harvest comes by, they're there and doing their thing. So I think we've done a good job of trying to try things. So I guess as it comes down, myself personally, I'm getting to be more a fan of what I've got for that 2026 mix. I guess I like rye, probably use a little more. I'm running more like 45 to 60 pounds of rye, and then 2 pounds of flax and a couple pounds of buckwheat. We threw the winter pea in there just to try it. I've had marginal success at best trying to get that established, but one of those things we'll try a little bit and see what happens. So, but yeah, and then to get into, I guess, like I say, the intangibles, which are a little harder to put a true economic number to them, but they are real things that at the end of the year translate into either saved time or a better application timing, being able to, gain some weed control, that whole sort of thing. So I guess, you look at it, the trafficability and is probably well, in my case, I'm going to say the number one thing. Just being able to plant in a wet year. I've got one farm that under a conventional system in a wet year, I was lucky if I could get 80% of it planted. Now in this system with cover crops, if I don't get 95 to 97% of it planted in a wet year, I'm completely doing something wrong. I mean, so it's significantly made a difference there. I'm able to carry equipment across and it plants well and we're getting a crop off it. So as well as, the trafficability. So you got the plantability, you got timely spraying. There's been times I've been out spraying after a big rainfall that my neighbors haven't been able to spray for a whole nother week yet. And I'm able to go out there and maybe it tacks up, but I'm not rutting. I'm able to get the weed control. I can space my time out a little bit better, to the point that I'm almost cocky when it gets to be rain season because I know I can get out there. I'll more than anything, I'll wait for it to rain and then I'll go do what I have to do. And then the same goes with harvestability, kind of like I showed on that one soybean picture there. With the cover crop, you can get the header to float over things. You're not pushing those leaves. You're not shoving in the header. You're carrying. If you're rutting, it's pretty minor that you can get it fixed with a super coulter or vertical till machine. You don't need to go out there and rip it and chisel it to work them back in. So a lot of those things there that just lack of headache and time management. And then you've got, the things we all like to see, reduced weed competition. Like in our sugar beet crop, rye is a big thing there for our water hemp control. I use control loosely because it doesn't 100% control water hemp, but it's easily 40 to 50% of what it would be if we didn't have a rye crop out there. So I'd rather try to kill 50 plants versus 100 plants. So seeing a lot of benefit on things there. And it slows the emergence of weeds so that it buys us time to get out there to make our applications and get things under control. So, and the last one there, water management, water infiltration and retention, I guess kind of almost relates back to the trafficability part. After it rains, that water is moving through and you're putting it into the profile in a place that you can use it later. At the same time, it's at a place you can use it later, so you're not evaporating it off and losing it during the dry part of the season. I just think like my soybean yields, since I've gone to this system, I bumped them probably a good 5 to 10 bushel. I think largely because I can bridge that 10-day to 2-week dry period through end of July and August in our part of the world where I've got moisture and those beans can keep growing, where I can watch the neighbors actually just stall out and wait till the next rainfall. So again, that's some of those things that, it all counts up to benefits. And to kind of relate back, I guess I would have to echo, the previous speaker there. If a guy can put cattle on cover crops, then you're guaranteed to pay off, I would say, every time by the time you throw this stuff in, because with this system, I'd say you're 60, 70% payout every time on the cover crops. You throw cattle on there, I dare say 100% of the time you're going to return it. So as a guy goes at it, things to look forward or beware of. Termination is a big deal. Here in the valley, we've got moisture, we've got that luxury. I tend to, at least like in my soybeans or even my beets, I'll get it planted green and I'll wait 2 weeks till after the crop starts to come up, and then I'll go kill it off because I've got moisture. I'm looking to use that moisture. As you go farther west in the state, you might want to be looking at terminating that a lot sooner, whether it's prior to maybe planting, or at planting, you're going to want to terminate just to save that moisture. But those are all things you got to take into account. So, and then the other one, I guess, as something to really think about when you're doing it and putting your plan together on your cover crops is, your species mix. You're going to want to be aware of green bridges, that sort of thing. What you're planting the following year. I guess for me, I don't try to put a rye cover crop the year ahead of a soybean or a spring wheat crop, because that just doesn't work. So I'm looking for things that'll win or kill if it's going to go into a wheat crop. I'm also a conventional corn guy, so I don't want a rye crop going into corn. I'm going to look for, a barley or preferably a broadleaf crop if I can find something to overwinter that I can kill with my herbicide program in the spring going into corn. If I was a Roundup corn guy, I'd probably be a lot less concerned about those kind of things because I know I could kill it off. So, and then multi-species, I think is probably the better way to go with things. I think there's a lot of benefit to it, but be careful with what you're doing, because you can ramp up cost in a hurry, and you got to keep that in mind too when you're doing the plan, that cost needs to be under control. So I guess that's kind of the bulk of it. Pretty straightforward, and of course with cover crops there's no perfect answer, but gives you an idea and at least maybe jars some thought process when you're looking at it. So